Okay, here we go with hour number 3, and back with us the first Friday of each month, as she is, one of the hosts on the Rents Radio Network, Deborah Tavares, who, along with her husband Lou, has attended more meetings of all kinds in her community and anywhere she can get to them than anyone I know. She has found out things through hardcore research that they both present on their website, and she's got a couple of them, but stopthecrime.net is the primary, and we'll see what we're going to talk about tonight. Welcome back, Deborah. How are you?
Well, Jeff, thank you so much. I have quite a bit to share with all the listeners tonight as we parse through documents all through the week. However, there's a real important lesson that we missed in school. Most all of us. I certainly did. And it's worth repeating that right now, because it's the basis, it's part of the basis of understanding why politicians and policies are not making any sense. And unless we understand part of the fundamental foundation, we're really not going to be able to successfully address the problems that we recognize. And what do I mean by that? Well, again, most of us were never taught what happened March 9th of 1933. No. We did not know that the United States federal government was dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act. And sadly, the receivers of the United States bankruptcy were the international bankers, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. And ever since March 9th of 1933, all United States offices, officials, and departments have been operating within a de facto status in name only under the emergency war powers. So you can go to stopthecrime.net. You can go to USA Inc., and you can take a look at many of the documents that really do underscore this. And I really have to say at this point, in honor of what James Traficant did in bringing this as an address to Congress. Yeah, it really was. And this was a congressional record of March 17th of 1993 that Mr. Traficant addressed the House floor and said this. And subsequently, with trumped-up charges, he was put in federal prison where he nearly was killed for about 7 years. And he passed away in August of 2014.
Yeah, they took the most powerful years, probably of his life in terms of contributions. He was just getting into the areas that require the most intense, attacks, and he was going after them.
Well, that's right. So it's really important to understand that, sadly, the United States federal government was dissolved, and what replaced it was the United States Corporation. Yeah. And until we understand that, we're not going to be able to make any sense out of all these policies. And we're going to discuss some of that this evening, because only by knowing this are we able to go out into local meetings and see exactly how they're pulling this off. But I want to alert everyone, and this is not the topic for this evening, Jeff, but I want to alert everyone to a link on stopthecrime.net right underneath the banner of Stop the Crime, and it's entitled Kids for Profit and Eugenics in the School. Again, the link is called Kids for Profit and Eugenics in the School. This is Common Core. Essentially, this is Common Core. And there's a very interesting bit of information on ARK, A-R-K, out of England. Rockefeller and, of course, Rothschild-backed, along with other major bankers. ARK stands for Absolute Return on Kids.
Yeah.
And this is about the sexualization of our children, which is why they're scooping them up now at the age of 3. And they're calling it P through 12, preschool through 12. Uh-huh. And when you understand the MK Ultra programming, they want kids at the age of 3 because the early sexualization causes traumatization, which makes them very easy for mind control. Now, if the curriculum wasn't bad enough with all false science of global warming, teaching our kids of global warming, teaching our children of water scarcity, when we know that we have primary water, which is why we don't have a water scarcity. And I'll just add right now, everyone can go to primarywater.org and download half-page flyers, distribute them far and wide, because the documents that I'm going to talk about in a minute are largely going to outline the global effects of water scarcity. They're telling us that billions and billions of people are going to die from the effects of scarce water resources and the subsequent reduction of food. But I just wanted to finish up with the link on stopthecrime.net, Kids for Profit and Eugenics in the School, and let everyone know we have a very important letter posted there on the site from New York State school principals. And it was literally a letter, more or less, apologizing to all the parents. And it's a 2 or 3 page letter with about 80 some odd pages worth of signatures from the schools throughout New York. And here's what they said they found out after the Common Core testing. This is just a couple of paragraphs out of this letter. There were ambiguous questions that appeared throughout the exams. The tests were too long, and the testing had increased dramatically. But here's how the children reacted. We know that many children cried during or after the testing, and others vomited or lost control of their bowels or bladders. Others simply gave up. One teacher reported that a student kept banging his head on the desk and wrote, "This is too hard, and I can't do this."
What age group is this again?
This is a letter that everyone can download. Again, it's on Kids for Profit and Eugenics in the School, and it's entitled New York State Principals. New York State high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools, and it is regarding grades 3 through 8. And it's an open letter to parents of children throughout New York State. Now, if this isn't bad enough, what parents need to understand, what is even more damaging is all of the wireless technology that the children face. Even if there was a way to turn around the increasing dumbing down of America, the wireless technologies is damaging the DNA of all the children. And it's not repairable. In fact, there's a very important, there's many documents on stopthecrime.net under mind control and other documents on our source document tab of stopthecrime.net. But I'm just going to read a couple of things out of a document that Dr. Lynn Segola wrote, and it's entitled Bioelectromagnetic Radiation Dangers. And she says, as a bioelectromagnetic scientist, she's joined many of her colleagues in devoting her career to warning the public about the carcinogenic, mutagenic effects of radiation to which the public secretly and purposefully exposed by corporate criminals and corrupt paid public officials for the purpose of covert warfare and corporate profits. She goes on to talk about the effects. There's no safe amount of radiation, and that's also spelled out in a Army document that we have on the stopthecrime.net, a Fort Meade Military Army document. Very important, no safe levels. Well, also we know that home cell phones, cell phone towers, portable phones, transmitting pagers, power lines, etc., are all transmitting mutagenic and transformative carcinogenic frequencies.
Right.
And there is no known safe level of radio frequency radiation exposure.
Correct.
And radio frequencies causes tissue damage with a single exposure. So it's important for people to understand it's not enough to not like the disinformation of your children learning in school, in science, that they're being taught global warming. And they're being taught scarcity, which is all part of the genocide program, the illusion of scarcity when, for example, water is a renewable energy resource. So what we have recognized and how this is happening is everything is incorporated. Our local school boards, our local school districts are incorporated. They do not work for us. They work for the corporation. They're working under a corporate contract where it's for massive revenue. And they bring in and sign grants, sign contracts that officiate these grants, and they're impoverishing us. Every agency is signing grants. There isn't a meeting that we do not attend, Jeff, where they're not signing grants. And I'll always ask,
when you say signing grants, what does that mean? Is there a ceremony where they're actually accepting money and they're signing in front of the public?
Well, it's on the agendas of your city councils, your county board of supervisors, where they're signing contracts. They are filling out grant requests and submitting them. And then if they're approved, they're eligible for the grant money. And a large revenue base in all of these corporate agencies are from grants. And
where do the grants primarily come from?
The federal government. And when we ask the cities, where does all this grant money come from? Is it collateralized?
They don't come from think tanks or private corporate covers. It's all directly from the feds primarily.
Well, the feds are think tanks and private.
Well, I understand, but I'm talking about the labels. How do they label them?
Yeah. Well, they just call them grants, and we know that it comes from the de facto government that's run by the bankers. We know that they're printing money. We know that the federal fiat money, the Federal Reserve.
Boy, I wish I could. You know, but I wish every time people talk about the bankers, they would say Zionist Bolshevik bankers, and get it right, because ultimately at the top, that's the eye on top of the pyramid. Your local banker doesn't have a clue, believe me, not a clue. Anyway, forgive the interruption.
What we have found, Jeff, and what is so important for everyone to realize is certainly I have grandchildren, and I've gone to the schools, to the school board meetings. I've attended many parents and grandparents that are opposing the Common Core curriculum. And I will tell you, we've had absolutely zero effect on slowing down the technology that's being moved in. I mean, many of the groups just said, okay, well, we'll deal with Common Core, but we don't want the technology. Well, the technology is all part of Common Core and the Gates Foundation. So they're really, in talking with hundreds of parents, there's really no solution now other than to homeschool outside of the government indoctrination homeschooling program. You can't drag the indoctrination into your house. Can you
homeschool, Deborah, without registering as a homeschool enterprise? Otherwise, they're going to find out about you. No, of course not. But I mean, are they forcing registration in order to send out monitors, proctors, commissars to watch what you're doing? Because they want to grade all these children and make sure they're, at least if they're not in the process, they're followable.
Well, I can tell you that as of this moment, there are large homeschooling networks, and for the moment, the assaults are not on them. But
they should have nothing to do with any organized governmental agency. Nothing.
Absolutely. And many of them obviously do not. That's the reason for making that decision. We need, of course, to sequester retired grandparents and retired school teachers into this network that we can actually teach the children some truth. And that we first have to teach them how government really works. That's one of the important foundations that has to be taught to the children. But I wanted to talk about a document that we'll go over on the program from time to time because it's an enormous document. It really does lay out education, the future reduction of humans in the workplace as a result of increased robotics, and the increased tension and chaos that the transition from human labor, manual labor, to machinery is going to create. And when you go to stopthecrime.net, right underneath the banner of Stop the Crime, you'll see a number of links. And the link that I'm going to be talking about this evening is called Global Strategic War Plans. Global Strategic War Plans. And I'm going to start out with the educational aspect of that document. But before I do, Jeff, we've talked before about the NASA war document that we've had on our website for quite some time. And I think it's important for people to look at that NASA war plan and then look at this global strategic war plan and understand.
Sure.
These are think tanks that are advancing the future for us to see in advance so that we can make different decisions and understand what is happening. And for example, in the NASA war plan, they tell us that there's going to be chaos and upheaval as a result of the massive computerization that's coming into our lives. And they talk about impacts of ongoing IT revolution upon society and how everything will become telecommuting, teleeducation, telemedicine, telecommerce, everything. And then they talk about how they're going to have better humans and there will be better human capabilities.
Ah, well, I hope so. Let me speak right out and say, I hope so.
Right. And they also talk in the NASA war plan, for example, on page 24.
It's where it's right on the front page. But you can find it anywhere. Just Google search it if you need to. NASA war plan.
Right, NASA War Plan, and it's on the homepage of stopthecrime.net. When we found this, it was entitled, and the real name is Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare, circa 2025. And this was a PowerPoint presented a few months before 9/11 by Dennis Bushnell, who's the chief NASA scientist at the NASA Langley Research Center. But go to stopthecrime.net, take a look at this because it talks about the demise of the U.S. underclasses. It talks about how they need to stabilize the world population, aka depopulation. And then they talk about web-based learning on page 26. They say by 2025, 40% of the public and 15% of the public colleges and universities are expected to close due to web-based competition. And they go on to say how there will be ultimately, the ultimate education approach is going to be plug and play. In other words, direct silicon or other such devices connecting to the brain. Very rapid uploads, education in minutes instead of many years.
Well, they had
I
had a story today where now they're kind of bragging that humans now have the ability to upload their brains to a computer, a machine.
Well, yes, that's absolutely true, actually. And that is what this Global Strategic War Plan we'll talk about as well here. I wanted to, first of all, say what is happening in every corporate meeting across the country and internationally is the Delphi technique. It's extremely important for everyone to understand that came via the Tavistock Institute. It's a mind control program of orchestrating all meetings. And the RAND Corporation has furthered the Delphi, D-E-L-P-H-I, format of meetings, and I'm going to describe what that looks like. It is, first of all, important to understand these are criminal networks of bullying and marginalizing people at meetings. They're trained. They call themselves consultants and facilitators.
No, they mock people, they put them down, they cow them.
Yes.
You've seen it all. You and Lou
Yes.
have been through all of it.
Yes, and what I want to say is that we need to understand these are criminal networks. Now, I know someone that signed up to be on a board of such a Delphi meeting where they're literally attempting to eliminate or to reduce the rural fire departments in the rural areas of Northern California. And your agreement of being on this advisory panel, again, creating the illusion that you can advise in any level is, of course, just part of the idea that there's public input when there really is not.
Right.
But they said there's two ways in which to vote on the final plan. You have to vote based on the consensus model. When I asked for them to define what that was in front of the group, they said, well, you have two choices. You can either agree with the plan fully, or you can live with it. But you cannot vote against it. And if you feel like you can't support it by you can live with it, well, then the group is going to work on you and get you to come into a consensus.
Yeah, sure.
It's bullying.
Yeah.
So when I said, Jeff, the Delphi program that's going across the country in every meeting, we're talking school boards, city councils, county board of supervisors, all of which are incorporated. These are nothing but criminal networks of manipulation.
And conformity and abuse and ultimately subtle terrorism.
That's exactly right. And people are not realizing that this is the plan, the technique, and they're very successful. And our children are going to be terrorized and abused in this corporate system. Now, I'm going to go over part of the program in the strategic war plan about education, because I think it's extremely important. Again, I face growing concerns of needing, of course, to see more children be homeschooled. I think more and more we're hearing more parents deciding that that's what we have to do. We can work, of course, on changing things, but we cannot leave our children in harm's way with radiation and with disinformation while we're working on trying to fix the problem. So we would not leave a child in the arms of a provider if that provider was a known pedophile until we were able to arrest the pedophile. We would extract that child and put that child into safety until we have a safe place for our children to be. And right now, we do not. Now, I hear a break coming up, Jeff.
This is I'm going to... Yeah. Go ahead. We'll take a little break. And what are you going to do right afterward?
Well, I want to talk about education that is set forth in this global strategic war plan.
Yeah.
Because it's absolutely incredible. And I'm going to actually read this. Do I have a moment?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the bottom line of education. Machines, jobs, and education. Machines will take over many jobs from people with developments in artificial intelligence, ultimately meaning that education will focus on those few areas of human thought and activity that machines are unable to deliver efficiently. This means that education will play an important role in enhancing people's ability to develop new ideas with other people and to take responsibility, all things that are difficult to envision machines doing.
So far.
So this document...
Let me duck the rest of this break in real quick and we'll come right back. Those are really important words. It's all there, folks. It's all there. They're not hiding it. They're putting it out there. AI is extremely dangerous and ultimately is going to cause a crisis of our so-called sentient dominant species on this planet. Be right back. Okay, and welcome back. Deborah Tavares. You can hear Deborah Monday through Friday 6 to 7 on this network, and she has found the mother lode of documents and position papers and policy papers and plans, and it's all there. It's not a joke. This isn't sci-fi. These aren't the scribblings of someone remembering something from 10, 15 years ago or even a year ago. These aren't anecdotal documents. She's got the goods, and they're bads. Go ahead.
Well, it's important to become educated. Again, I think that people will become more empowered.
We have to. It's our last chance, or we're finished as a species.
That's exactly right. I am wanting, of course, everyone to see the letter. It was a signed open letter by the artificial intelligence, concerns of safety and social benefits due to artificial intelligence, and Stephen Hawking and others have expressed concerns about the benefits versus the negative aspects.
Well, Hawking is involved with the AI debate, yeah, and who was it? Somebody just donated $10 million to try to draw the line between out of control and in control AI. I forget who it was.
Yeah, well, why? And I have this signed open letter actually posted on stopthecrime.net. If you go to the homepage of stopthecrime.net and you click on quick links, which is at the top of the homepage,
right,
you'll go to an opportunity to select other links within the website. And as you scroll down, you can click on our link entitled No More Humans. And I certainly would recommend that everyone go there and take a look, because we've posted a number of articles and so forth that relate to the fact that we are classified as having depreciated value, and we are being replaced, or at least they would like to, with robots. But getting back to this document that we're talking about right now, again, Global Strategic War Plans, I wanted to just say a few more things about education, and then we're going to get into some other aspects of this plan.
Okay.
But it talks about the global education marketplace. Everything is a market. That's what the corporate structure is. It's a market for revenue and profits. And it says in the aspect of education, institutions in Europe, North America, and Australia will increasingly run their highest quality programs from campuses in developing countries, as well as introducing more distant learning courses. As more people learn outside of their country of origin and migrate to pursue careers, it is likely that there will be a drive to standardize qualifications at a global level. Well, that's what they're doing. They go on to tell us that it's probable that qualifications will be defined as part of the common global system across the developed world, and many schools will be increasingly run or at least sponsored by powerful corporate organizations. And they go on to say, and there will be reduced government oversight and involvement. Well, keep in mind, we don't have a government as we would think. We have a corporation. So, of course, they're going to be run by powerful corporate organizations, just as they're telling us that they will. They go on to say that access to education will also become more polarized, depending on wealth and ability to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Students will be separated into vocational and academic streams from a young age. As corporate involvement in education grows, it will encourage children's entry to one or other stream at earlier ages, as corporations and organizations, including the armed forces, seek to identify and train accordingly the strong future performers. And I again remind you that we're being told that the children are being replaced by machinery. And there's an excellent YouTube that I would recommend everyone watch. It's entitled Weapons of Mass Instruction. That's Weapons of Mass Instruction by John Taylor Gatto, G-A-T-T-O.
Great educator, great man.
Yes, and I would really recommend that. So now let's look at other aspects of this global strategic war plan, because it is all about war, disease, crime, and poverty. Flash mobs, brain chips, lack of food and water, mind and body control. Now, I want to point out, again, this is a manipulated document. You really have to understand the manipulation that is fed through everything that is written. It is a program written in doublespeak, and there's false science-based policies because they talk about climate change and the effects of climate, again, all based on false sciences and our need to reduce CO2 emissions. Mm-hmm. This has false timelines in it, scarcity myth for depopulation agendas, and so much more. And what you have to do when you read these documents is you have to replace the maybes with the will. We'll do this and we'll do that, because most of what is being discussed in this document out to the year 2036 and the year 2045, much of this has already occurred. So who is behind this plan? I'm going to go over that right now. The Development Concepts and Doctrine Center's Strategic Trends Program, they tell us, is a continuous program of research that provides policymakers with long-term decision-making. And they tell us this is the 5th edition of this Global Strategic Trends, and it builds upon previous editions, and it's a respected body of work that benefits from continual engagement with worldwide range of contributors from academia, business, government, both domestically and internationally. Now, this was written out of the UK government, and you're going to see how they spell program. You're going to see the influence of the UK spelling of words throughout this document, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. But it's a historically and theme-based analysis of the future. And it's analysis of key risks and shocks, including an assessment of probability, frequency, and magnitude. Now, what they're telling us is that we could reduce our emissions to zero tomorrow. And because of climate change and the fact that it has gotten ahead of us, we're not going to be able to prevent the increased weather events. And they tell us in this document that the increased weather events are going to force migration. And there will be many people that are killed, much destruction in the wake of increasing weather events. Now, in this document, too, they deny that geoengineering was ever happening. They tell us that there was once a consideration of it, mm-hmm. but because of many governments' pushback, they decided to hold off because they didn't want that to cause tension. So that's when I say this is a false science-based document. But there are many aspects in this document about the technologies that are absolutely where they're taking us all. And one in particular, Jeff, area is about the way in which they're going to create human enhancement and augmentation and brain-to-brain communication, even with other species. Now, we have created a bullet point. This is a 202-page document. So when you go to stopthecrime.net and you click on Global Strategic War Plans, what you'll see first is the bullet point that we have put together to give you an outline quickly. You can peruse through it quickly to see some of the main aspects. But they talk about how there will be failed cities. There will be increasing devices collecting data, and that will intensify levels of surveillance. And they talk about how there won't be any hiding because they'll be able. That's
gone now.
Yeah. Well, they underscore that. I mean, you're reading that in this document, mm-hmm. and they again talk about how humans will be embedded with sensors and computing devices will occur. Well, that's already occurred.
Now, I want to say something, just briefly. I have never bought into the idea that the masses would be somehow anesthetized and injected with a chip like the size of a grain of rice or whatever. I think the science is going to be far more sophisticated than that, and it'll be down to the nano level, and people will either drink it, eat it, or inhale it, and it'll take up residence wherever it needs to in the body.
Well, I can tell you that, again, there's redundant systems. We know of many biomedical devices that have been removed from people.
True.
In fact, just a week ago, there was a man by the name of Kane that had a number of biomedical devices removed from his body out of UCLA.
Yeah, but we don't have them. That's the problem. We need those. We need those devices to see them, to put them up on the internet, but we don't.
Yeah,
have them.
They're on the internet. It's part of what is posted in this breaking news story about these removals.
Okay, we do have pictures. I didn't know this.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And I did a program, Jeff, on my show at 6 p.m. on the Rinse Radio Network that is up on YouTube, and it is entitled Mind Control, Wires in the Brain.
Oh, yeah.
Mind Control, Wires in the Brain. It's up on YouTube.
Yeah, I posted that.
And we talk about the Dave Larson report. Mm-hmm. And Dave Larson has a report. He has the photographs of his biomedical device removals next to the patents and the actual devices before they grew tissue around them in his body. Now, there have been a number of people that have had removals, and there's an excellent YouTube that is part of the Rinse Network program that we did put up again on YouTube called Mind Control, Wires in the Brain, and we feature a man by the name of William Powelek, and the fact that he was part of government, black aspects of government when they were creating these implants, and he was very worried. In fact, he told everyone that they were not to release his explanation and his whistleblowing account of what he witnessed until after his death. And he died in 2007. And so everyone can go to Mind Control, Wires in the Brain. It will lead you to those documents where you can see the actual biomedical devices that were removed. It's quite amazing. And that's another conversation in and of itself. But it talks about that in this document, in the Global Strategic War Plans. And that's important to understand. They also talk in this document how there will be, of course, as I mentioned, brain-to-brain interfacing, even with other species. Mm-hmm. And specifically, they talk about external and internal electromechanical devices that will enhance human physical performances.
Super soldiers.
And they tell us, I'm sorry?
Super soldiers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they talk about how this, it will be possible for people to radically alter their identities by using a range of physical and cognitive enhancements. And they talk about new technologies that will be able to extend our visual sense beyond the range of visible light into other parts of the spectrum.
In other words, what, see auras around people, that kind of thing?
Well, I can only say what they're saying here, and I'll just repeat that because this is rather fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
New technologies will be able to extend our visible sense beyond the range of visible light into other parts of the spectrum. They go on to say that implants designed to help restore sight provide an early indication of what will be achieved in allowing us to see otherwise non-visible radiation. Goes on, our hearing will be significantly enhanced. Hearing aids are currently being developed that can choose and boost frequencies of interest, which will enhance the ability to detect and understand speech in noisy environments. They go on understanding how the brain can disseminate between individual smells in a mix of odors found in a typical room will provide the basis for developing future technology that will enhance our sense of smell, and how even our tongue would be used as a novel pathway to conduct a range of sensory information to the brain from external sensors such as cameras or sonar. Now, this is a little heavy for most people. This is just one aspect of this document. Other aspects of this document discuss the intended number of mega cities, of which they're indicating that there will be about 280 mega cities globally, and that these mega cities will cross over existing borders, and they could consume Holland, Belgium, etc. And these mega cities will come with it massive increases of chaos and violence and increased levels of diseases. And because people are packed together and they're all seeing what each other has as water is reduced, some people have access to only maybe a few cups of water a day versus other people that will have access to more water. Again, much of this is based on the idea of scarcity, and that's why I underscore everyone understanding as quickly as possible that we have primary water. So that can be part of the scarcity that we're not going to be tricked into believing by going to primarywater.org and again listening to the YouTubes, Water Crisis Hoax and Primary Water Explained. Because what's so important about understanding the reality of water is in this document, Jeff, it tells us that water will reduce agriculture, that our agricultural practices have used too much water. And the scarcity of food in conjunction with the scarcity of water will be an opportunity for genetically modified foods to literally save the starving. And this is what they tell us in this document. So we can see that obviously our best efforts of trying to squelch Monsanto is really intended to be all part of the food production cycle at great cost. They also tell us that food cost will increase 100%. And that because of increased shipping lanes and congestion of shipping lanes, that will increase the cost of transporting goods and services.
Well, they need fewer people to eat that food, right? Right, exactly. And I think they also tell us in this document as well, this is very disturbing, crime is actually going to increase. All levels of crime will increase. Oh, I want that.
Well, for you and I mean, we can't imagine how crime could get much worse, but it assures us that all levels of crime will increase. It also tells us this, and this is very, very disturbing. Sexual violence will continue to be a feature of conflict and state violence and used as a weapon of war, and it has the potential to be a significant factor in instability. And they go on to tell us how we will have a greater reliance on automated technologies, and they will provide a scope for terrorists and criminals to disrupt the transport system through cyber attacks. Failing cities will pose major security challenges. There will be massive social unrest and even insurgencies. Country-wide repercussions with these mega cities and the social unrest, and how people living in the urban areas will get used to the armed forces that will need to operate within the urban environments. Now, they talk about these mega cities and how we're desiring to live into these cities. It's most important, and we've discussed this on prior shows, and I'm going to certainly let everyone know right now, we're being forced, obviously, off of what they consider unsustainable sprawl locations in the United States and globally. And this is, again, all part of a very seamless, redundant system called reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And your incorporated de facto local governments and counties have already likely initiated plans to define where you live as being unsustainable. And this is all the types of policies based on fraudulent science that our children, of course, are learning in school. But you can type in the name of your city followed by policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and you will discover that your city has signed you on to reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Very thoughtful
but
of them.
That's of course all false. That's not real. It's a virtual reality of make-believe. So what does it really mean? They're creating a new market of retrofitting. And what we discovered, Jeff, is every single structure, not only in the United States but globally, is not going to be compliant with these new green energy requirements. And so they don't even need to really come into your home to know that you're not compliant because everything isn't. So it's a complete new market of retrofitting. And there are new banks coming in now with loans for retrofitting, another banking scheme. So go to stopthecrime.net. Certainly watch our YouTube, Who is Running America and the Climate Action Plans, Who is Running America and the Climate Action Plans, and also Water Wars, stealing water for profit and power. And stay tuned to our website because we're continually posting documents and creating YouTubes out of the Rinse radio shows that I do at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And Jeff, I really want to thank you for having me on the program this evening.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for bringing all that forward, and I just am amazed at the amount of material you and Lou have uncovered. Documentation, not hearsay, real stuff.
Yes, that's correct. And we just need to understand we've been enslaved by lack of knowledge.
Indeed. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Deborah Tavares, and that's hour 3, and that means good night. And my best wishes to all of you for the weekend. We'll be back Sunday night. Of course, the Rinse Radio Network at rinseradio.com has hosts and programs for you 24/7. Hope you'll stop in and take a listen, and we'll be back soon.